Reconnect. Good morning. As we journey through Matthew, we're looking at Matthew chapter 22, verses 1 through 22 this morning. And again, Jesus is in Jerusalem just days before he's going to be arrested. And it says he speaks to them in parables. And he tells about the kingdom of heaven being compared to a king giving a wedding banquet. And, the majority of you are familiar with this story as well. It comes up at least once every 3 years in our lectionary as we read our Sunday morning texts. But the king, Jesus is comparing the kingdom of heaven, God's reign of now and eternity, to a wedding banquet, to a wedding where the king or God invites people to this wedding, to the feast, to live in eternity with him in heaven. And he sends the invitation out, and the invitation is sent first to the Israelites, to the Jewish people. And so God uses the first guests that were invited that are too busy or have just done this or just done that, and they just got too much going on in life to come to this wedding and to the banquet. And in Jesus' day, a wedding and a wedding feast, a wedding banquet, they were, 2 or 3 day events. Today a lot of times, we'll gather the day before the wedding for rehearsal and for a get together and a meal. And then we have, so a lot of times today we spend, the majority of 2 days. But in Jesus' day, everybody came and everybody was there. But these people just said, we don't have time to come to your banquet. You think about that, the king. This is a person who is, you could call him the boss or everything, but he's the ruler. He's the one that keeps the country together. He's the one that people are paying, taxes and stuff to provide an army for protection, for all of that stuff, And, when a king gives an order, or an invitation, the majority of people would just, really want that. But these people say no to the king. And he sends his servants out to remind them, the feast is prepared, the wedding is today, come. And they ignore him. And the king, it says, the king is enraged, is the word used here, because these people that were invited, killed the slaves, killed the messengers that came. And this is reminiscent. God is talking about how the Israelite people have mistreated the prophets, and again, especially now, we're going to mistreat and crucify the Son who comes. And the king, it says in verse 7, was enraged. He sent his troops. He destroyed those murderers and destroyed their city. And then he told his other slaves, the wedding is still going to happen. Go out and invite anybody and everybody that you see. And the people came. And one person that came, the king got upset with. Because when the king came, there was one person who wasn't wearing a wedding robe. And so I just don't quite understand this. I don't like this picture in some ways. But there's one person that did come to the wedding feast that didn't come to completely participate. Maybe is one that is just putting on a show, or maybe somebody that's two-faced, maybe somebody that is playing a charade. Because we have people in our communities that way, that they put on a good face, but in reality they're just kind of a snake in the grass. And so I don't know, maybe this is what this person is being compared to, that was there but didn't have the wedding robe. Somebody that was there just for the show, just to show up. Or, we have people that'll show up for everything, just because there's a free meal. And so maybe this is what was going on there. I don't know for sure, but the wedding went on. And this is, God is saying, the kingdom of heaven is real. And Judgment Day will come. And sometimes those who have been invited are going to find themselves on the outside because they haven't accepted the invitation. They haven't come with an open heart. They haven't come and asked for forgiveness. They haven't come and participated, or they're just putting on a show. The noise you hear in the background is my grandson Hunter. He's out here messing around in my shop. He likes to collect sawdust and different things. So just if you're wondering what all the noise is there. So at the wedding feast, the one guest who is there that's not appropriate is banished to the, he says, the king says, bind him hand and foot, throw him into the outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And again, this is in Matthew's gospel, and Matthew is reminding us that, okay, Hunter wants to wave to you. There we go. Okay, you good now? All right, so, but again, Jesus is reminding us, telling us that there is a place of condemnation. And after Jesus told this parable, the Pharisees understand that he's telling it somewhat about them, in awful ways. And so they went and they plot as to how to trap them, how to trap Jesus, because they just want to get rid of this guy. So they send some of their disciples, some of their, people, to ask Jesus about, is it lawful to pay taxes? Because the Lord, I am the Lord your God, you shall have no other gods. God is saying, all of this in the commandments. So the Pharisees are going to try to trap Jesus, because if you give everything to God, the government and all that kind of stuff. But Jesus is aware of what's going on, and he says, well, look at the coin. And again, you know this story probably as well as I do. Whose picture's on it? And what does it say on it? Well, it's Caesar's picture, and Caesar's title is on it. And Jesus says, give then to the emperor, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. And it's a reminder for us that we need to be aware of our priorities, but also it is that we should be good citizens of our country, that we should follow the laws of our country, that we should do what we want, or do what we are supposed to do as a citizen of the world, while remembering that we are a citizen of God, that we are a child of God, that God is ultimately our ultimate ruler. And so think about, what is it that you have that is God's? Or maybe I should say this, what is it that you have that isn't God's? It's just an interesting thought. We think about, well, what do we have that belongs to God? And then, or that comes from God? But then to flip it around, what do we have that doesn't come from God? Well, one of the things we have that doesn't come from God is our trials and tribulations. God does not give us those things. They are in our lives because of the brokenness of the world. But God gives us the strength to get through those things. But regardless, we have so much to be thankful to God for, and so much to just remember that we are. Hunter's waving here again. I got to get the camera down so you can see him there. Yeah, he just loves to wave at everybody. So we are reminded that we are children of God, and that our allegiance is to God. And so many people in our world today forget that. So many people in the world today, think it's all about them, or that I've done this all on my own, and so many things that way. And we need this reminder that that God is first and foremost in our lives. And that while we have allegiance to our country, I am proud to be an American. I'm not always proud of the way America works and different things that way, but I'm proud to be an American. I'm glad that I'm a citizen of the United States of America. And so I pay my taxes, and I do what I need to do, or what I'm expected to do for my country. But within all of that, I remember first and foremost that I'm a child of God, and that the blessings in my life are from God, that my being, God created me and all that exists, and he has given me, food and clothing, home and family, all of these things. If we think about, the meanings of the Lord's Prayer and different things, when we pray, give us this day our daily bread, and what Martin Luther said about that. So God is there for us, and God continually invites us. The story of the wedding feast is a reminder that the invitation is always there. And when we forget about God, maybe, or when other things get to be more important than God in our lives, we will have reminders, people that will say something to us, or maybe the reminder comes in the form of Christmas or Easter, or the important church days that remind us about God and God's love for us. And so we have these continued invitations, just like Jesus talks about in that the king sent his servants out to remind people of the invitation. So we have reminders all the time of God's love and of God's grace. And it's such a... It makes me wonder sometimes why people don't hear God more. Yeah, Elton, I just saw your note. I just have to look at it. I try to teach, I tried to teach my kids and my grandkids both that way, and so they like to listen to Grandpa too. And Hunter knows about my devotions, and that I do those each day. So anyway, on this day, may you remember, part of what Elton just reminded us that we teach our children, our grandchildren, life lessons about God. And that's an important thing for us to do. So may God bless you richly in your life today.